Hello everyone, welcome to our extra special Easter live stream here on the League One Lowdown. There's no chance of slip-ups tonight, lads, because we can't edit them out. So I have to be very careful, but I'm Jamie Johnson and as always, joined by Seb Jones. Seb, how are you?
Very good, thank you, yes. Yeah, good to get going.
And it's a bit weird for us to, Seb, because we're joined by the preview co-host as well. It's all four of us, which is always nice. And first, Sam, how are you?
All good, thank you, mate. All good.
And my Lincoln compatriot, can we say, Callum? You all right?
Yeah. It's weird. We're not seeing each other. We live in the same city. We ain't seen each other for ages, have we? But no, I'm not doing too bad.
It's hard not to bump into people when we're walking around Lincoln, so I'm not quite sure how we've...
It's not the biggest place, is it? But...
No. But there's lots to get into tonight, so thanks for joining us, if you're joining already, and throughout the show as well. We're going to be talking about every team in League One. We're going to do sort of the teams that who haven't really got a lot to play for, and then go into the two fighting for relegation and trying to stay up, and then we've got a little bit of a quiz that Sam's in charge for, and then we're going to look up to the top end of the table and the playoffs and the automatics as well. But we're going to start with the announcement from this morning, which was the players and managers of the season. I always get a little bit tentative because I don't know why they get announced before the end of the season, but they have been announced, and we'll do the managers first. Four of those on the shortlist: Richie Wellens from Leyton Orient, Nathan Jones of Charlton, Phil Parkinson from Wrexham, and Chris Davies from Birmingham. I think they're all sort of, three of them, I guess, are obvious ones for me. But what do we think about it? Sam, I guess I'll throw to you first, and is Leyton Orient have got their representative on there.
I think if you look at the table, Wellens, it's fair to say, should be on there, purely because I think he's overachieving pound for pound. I am surprised he's on there, considering the start of the season we had, to be honest. Like, it seems to they have just looked at the second half of the season, and we would be fourth in the second half of the season. But we've still lost 16 games this season, which is nearly double of who I would have had there in Dave Challoner. I can't believe he's not been mentioned. He's got more points than Charlton. Their wage budget arguably is probably smaller, I would say, than Charlton's as well. Phil Parkinson, yeah, it's probably fair. And same with Chris Davies, he's on for record points. I don't think it's impossible not to have him in there. But I was surprised to see Richie Wellens on there. And it also promotes him more to championship clubs who now may be thinking, oh, maybe we'll go after Richie, which the only hope I have is we get into the playoffs and get promoted, which I'm just hoping for.
I think that is the obvious exception, isn't it, of Dave Challoner from Stockport?
Yeah, I think for me it's this idea that you want to have kind of representations from all over the league, because it's very easy to just nominate the top four on the table, and I suppose if they'd have done that, then it would have been Dave Challoner and whatnot. So, but the issue is at the bottom of the league, you tend to chop and change your managers very much, and there's not been a team, I suppose, really, that have performed the most incredible escape or whatnot. There's not a team that have really outperformed us, I suppose, this season. Obviously, you got the exception of Reading, but they've changed manager halfway through, and we'll get on to that in a moment, I suppose, with these awards. But it's very hard to justify nominating someone who's only been here for half a season. So
yeah, well, you've set me up very nicely there to move on to young player of the season, which has that sort of query, isn't it? Louis Barry is on there, who of course left Stockport in January. Tyler Bindon as well from Reading, as well as Richard Kone of Wycombe. I think you've sort of said the elephant in the room there, haven't you, Callum, in terms of the fact that Louis Barry left in January, but he's still on there, Seb.
Yeah, I think that's sort of kudos to his impact, I guess, while he was at Stockport. And yes, he was only there half a season, but he's actually still the top goal scorer. He's got 15 goals in the league so far this season, and Kyle Wotton is the closest to him, and even he is only on 11. So, despite him not being here since January, I guess the impact that Louis Barry had on that Stockport side and sort of helping them get to where they are in the league table, I can see why he's absolutely been nominated for, but I absolutely agree with Callum in terms of it's not been there the full season. Yes, I think I've just contradicted myself there in terms of, he had an impact, but not across the full season, which is what the award is for. The award is for young player of the season. He's not been there the whole season. He's been there half the season. If it was a young player of the half season, then he would win it. He'd pass it with flying colours, but it's not a full season. And perhaps there are some other candidates that could have got in there instead of him, I think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And I'm sure Sam has got a candidate of his own that he wanted in there.
Yeah, it's not an Orient player. It's actually another Wycombe player, Cameron Humphreys, on loan from Ipswich. 7 goals, 6 assists, been instrumental in sort of Wycombe's season, really. If he doesn't play well, Wycombe don't seem to play as well. So it would be another Wycombe player, but I think Cameron Humphreys is a name that's just been missed off the list. We could go for 39 years young Darren Prattley in there. Yeah, I think Cameron Humphreys is the obvious one for me.
Well, there is that same Wycombe representative in the player of the season as well, Kone, in both the young player and player of the season. He's alongside Davis Keillor-Dunn and Iwata from Birmingham. That, I think, I guess, a bit more straightforward if those are the top two. And then Davis Keillor-Dunn has slid in there, which I think was, at least to my surprise.
I don't know. Like, for me, he's been an incredible player this year for Barnsley. Like, whenever I look at the stats, he seems to be one that's just, he's contributed regardless. In terms of players that have got their sides out of trouble, I think you can't really look further than Keillor-Dunn a lot of the time. He's been. You wonder where they'd be without him in the league table, given what's happened at the club. I know Seb knows probably a bit more about that. We had a bit of discussion backstage, didn't we? Iwata feels like, I don't want to say the token Birmingham player, but he's been incredible. I think for me, a lot of people saying, John in the chat saying how Iwata got nominated is a surprise. He hasn't been Birmingham's best player. I'll admit I don't watch Birmingham probably as hardcore as John does, but when he played against Lincoln, he was unstoppable. He was incredible, and a lot of the time, it's not necessarily the stats that stand out; it's how a player performs their role. So, I don't know. You're always going to get little disputes with this sort of stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess it's always the way, isn't it? But before we move on, I guess we'll do a quick whip round of who we think should win them. Sam, I'll start with you for the 3 awards.
So for manager, I'd probably if Birmingham go and get record points, I don't think you can look past Chris Davis. I think that's fair enough. If he doesn't get record points, I'm going to be biased and I'm going to say Richie Wellens. Player of the year, I'd probably give it to Iwata, even though I think Clara should probably get it because I think he's been Birmingham's best player, but defenders don't seem to get recognised nearly as much. And for young player, I personally would give it to Tyler Binden out of everyone. I think with everything that's gone on off the pitch at Reading, to have such an impact on a squad, and he's obviously got his move to Nottingham Forest coming up, I'll give it to Tyler Binden.
Callum?
He seems to have malfunctioned. The disadvantages of going live.
I'll go ahead of Callum for this one. Of course, I'm going to back my own player, so I'm going to back David Keillor-Dunn in terms of the player. I am sort of similarly agree that he pushed his luck a little bit to get there, but nevertheless, he's got 15 goals, he's got 6 assists, so he's got the stats to back it up. And Callum mentioned sort of his impact on the Barnsley side. I think Barnsley will be in a much worse position if not for Keillor-Dunn. So I'll put Keillor-Dunn as the player of the season. Manager of the season, agree with Sam in terms of Chris Davis at Birmingham. If they do achieve the record number of points, which I think they will go on and get, nevertheless, if they don't, they've it's been a great season for them, really. Yes, they've had all the money spent, but actually, it's his first. You've got to remember, it's his first proper managerial job. So to come in your first proper job and to get the promotion in the emphatic fashion that they've done it in, then Chris Davis for me. And in terms of a young player, I'm going to go for Richard Coney. I think he has slightly dipped in the past few weeks, but actually, on the whole, as a season, he's done really well for Wycombe. He's up there in terms of leading goal scorers in the league as well, and I think he has been been a focal point for Wycombe, sort of high achieving nature so far this year.
Well, no one noticed Callum. Who are you picking?
I don't know. I think for me, Kone, player of the year. Sorry, my internet is as stable as ever with these live streams. It seems to be a recurring theme. It was fine before, but anyway, I think Kone's been, by far and away the best player. It says something that Birmingham fans are not backing one of their own, I suppose, a lot of the time in this situation. You expect them to kind of back themselves, but I'd probably say Kone. I mean, Keillor-Dunn's been incredible, but Barnsley aren't at the sharp end, so. Kone.
With Kone, I also want to know how he's been nominated for Player of the Season, considering there's a player at Leyton Orient who has more goals than him this season and more assists, which means he has more goal involvements and he has a lower XG. I'd like to know how.
I think someone's slightly biased there in that question.
It was a surprise to me that Charlie Cohn wasn't on this list at all. Really.
Well, if it was player of half season, then Sam, you'd be on
17
for one,
goals.
wouldn't you?
Yeah, but he's the league's top scorer.
Exactly. For me, I'm going to go for Davis, and I'm going to go for Richard Kone for Player of the Season, which leads me to follow you, Sam, and go for Bindon for Young Player of the Season. So, but the thing is, if Charlton get promoted for the playoffs or Leyton Orient or something like that, then that manager becomes the manager of the season. But obviously, these awards done before the end, which is always something that grinds my gears. But regardless, we're going to shift on to talking through every team in League One, and that begins with the teams in the middle of the pack with nothing in terms of promotion and nothing in terms of relegation, and that begins alphabetically with yours truly, Seb. It's Barnsley. They've got Leyton Orient on Good Friday away from home, and then Peterborough at home on Easter Monday. Yeah, sitting mid-table at Barnsley.
Yeah, not the season I think we expected. Started off under Darrell Clark, went pretty well, and then just sort of seemed to dip at the turn of the year, and has resulted in us now sitting in 11th place, which is probably not, as I said, not where you expect us to be at the start of the season at all. But been a little bit of a strange season in terms of too many defeats and too many games where we've not got results from. But one thing we did get was a result on Saturday, a pretty surprising one at home to Bolton. Pretty emphatic fashion. 4-1 it finished, two Barnsley, 2 goals from Jallow, 2 goals from Russell. And I think that was sort of could be a real turning point for Barnsley, for Conor Harrahan as well, his first win as interim manager. And I guess sort of using that to go into this Easter weekend of fixtures away at Leyton Orient. I guess they themselves in a similar position. Actually, they're on the same points as Bolton, sort of chasing that playoff spot. But Barnsley sort of have absolutely just thumped Bolton. So, it would be typical Barnsley to go and lose against Leyton Orient. But I'm trying to stay a bit positive here in terms of we've already sort of beaten pretty comfortably another playoff chasing side in Bolton, and there's no reason why we can't go again away at Leyton Orient. Our away form's actually been better than our home form, so we've got that sort of under our belt as well. And then the home fixture against Peterborough themselves, I guess, just worth mentioning that they were the surprising victors in the EFL Trophy final on Sunday, beating Birmingham, I beg your pardon. Wrexham weren't there. Beating Birmingham 2-0. Birmingham will come into this with a little bit of momentum, but actually they themselves have had a disappointing season, which, they're only in 16th place, 48 points on board. So, it just I'm a bit unsure on how to judge Peterborough, because they've been a little bit inconsistent. But there's no reason why we can't go at them like we just gone at Bolton again.
Yeah, and John in the chat, who was at the Birmingham game, said it might sound daft in the 6-2 loss, but Birmingham really impressed him. And during the whole show, if you've got comments or questions, do put them in the comments, and we'll read them out. And if there's a question, we'll answer it as well. But I think they've done nicely there, Seb, in terms of summing up Barnsley. And you brought us on nicely as well to Birmingham and to the EFL Trophy final from the weekend. Callum's already smiling. It was Peterborough's in the end. I think to everybody's surprise, we're going. I think you're sort of grinning like a Chester cat, Callum. So I'll go to you.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, I think I kind of accepted my fate. I said, Birmingham will win it. I think me and Sam both backed Birmingham to win it. I think everyone backed Birmingham to win it, but we didn't consider that Peterborough, when they do show up and know how to play football, they're not. They're a good side. Peterborough are. They've always been up and down this season. This season probably more down than up, but they're a side to watch out for next season. I think if they can keep some of their star players. But yeah, it's just fun, isn't it? I mean, it's got Twitter talking, hasn't it? With obviously what the Birmingham players were doing, collecting their runners-up medals and everything like that. It's created a lot of talk, which I suppose is only a good thing. It gets people talking about League One football, which we can't complain about. there's not a lot to say about the game. I don't think there was no real controversial moments. I've not seen many Birmingham fans come out and say, "Oh, we should have won this. We were the better sides." I feel like a lot of people have just accepted that Peterborough were the side that deserved to win it. At the end of the day, it's a bit of fun. This trophy, it's not meant to be taken as seriously as the EFL Cup or the FA Cup or anything like that, But it's a day out at Wembley, and posh fans clearly enjoyed it. John, who's contributed a lot to this podcast, more than I have so far today.
His internet hasn't gone.
That's valid. I mean, at the end of the day, it's football. We all enjoy it, and fair play to Peterborough. I don't want to say too much because it sounds like I've got some of the Birmingham fans on the side, which can't be said for much this year so far. But I mean, we've put them in the nothing to play for section because they've already done the most important thing, and that's win the league. So,
well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, what they have to play for is chasing down records, isn't it? It's something I mentioned on our review podcast that if they win 5 of their last 6, they'll have the most wins of any team in EFL in an EFL season, and they're chasing down record points and that sort of mark as well. And Sam, I mean, they've got 2 home games across the weekend. Crawley, who have pretty much already been relegated, and Burton, who are obviously fighting for their lives, but both at home. They've got an incredible home record, and they're chasing down those records now.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think they could have asked for a better next 2 games to bounce back. I know Burton have been a lot better recently, but they should have too much strength, especially at home. They're still, I think they've won 18 and drawn 3 of their home games. I do think they'll get record points. I think as much as that loss at Wembley will be painful for a little while, I think it's a good opportunity for them to refocus and bounce back, sort of reset for the final 6 games and just try and break as many records as they possibly can, which I think they can do.
And Burton is away, so that is an audio fault in Sam's document.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have to do things very quickly.
Well, this is the thing with the live streams; those sort of errors, as I said earlier, won't get sort of scrubbed out. But yeah, they're still fine, and it's a good couple of games for them, isn't it? In terms of exactly what you said there, so in terms of bouncing back and chasing for the league title. But another team really in the mix with Barnsley in mid-table is Blackpool, and they are away at Stevenage and at home to Wrexham, who we will talk about later on in the show when we come to discussing the teams fighting for second place. And it was at one point we were sort of backing them for getting into the playoffs, and then we were saying they weren't, and then we were saying they were, and they've now fell firmly that they're not going to be able to get into the playoffs this season.
Yeah, the loss to Rotherham kind of didn't help them. A resurgent Rotherham, shall we say, who have now appointed Matt Hamshaw as their new manager. I think if they did beat Rotherham, they'd be 63 with that game in hand. So they'd be 6 off. You win the game in hand, you're 3 off. So I think that would have kind of knocked the stuffing now out of Blackpool's kind of resurgence. They have done it in recent years where they go on these really good runs towards the end of the season and creep in the playoffs. And that's the team you kind of want to be in a way. It sounds harsh, but you don't particularly want to be a Wycombe where you've been up there all season and you miss out on the final couple of games because it can demoralise you. Where Stockport and Charlton have just kind of been 3rd, 4th. Well, in Charlton's case, they were bottom half earlier in the season. Stockport are kind of been thereabouts all season. And then you've got Reading, Orient, who are in decent-ish form. And then Bolton, who have lost 4, I think it is, of their last 7. That's not kind of the form you want to be going into the playoffs. And it kind of sums up Bolton's season. But for Blackpool, I think they'd be... Since Steve Bruce has come in, they have been difficult to beat, and that's proven by the number of draws they have. Niall Ennis has come in January and been a star, quite frankly. He's got them loads of goals, which was needed for the Blackpool side, which did struggle to score goals. But I think they'll be a team to watch next season if they can keep Niall Ennis, who has been recently mentioned to go to Wigan Athletic.
Yeah, in terms of sort of rattling through some of these teams that we know where they're going to finish. We've got Cambridge and Crawley next. And one of the questions in the chat from Kara was that, are the bottom 3 going to go down? Well, Shrewsbury, yes. Cambridge, yes. Crawley, yes. So I think that Crawley are the only ones who've got a chance, haven't they? But they play Huddersfield and Leyton Orient. They play Birmingham and Exeter. Cambridge play Huddersfield and Leyton Orient. So they've both got not the easiest fixtures. And they're both sort of looking down the barrel of relegation.
Yeah, I think both of them are gone. I mean, my favourite stats at these times of the year, we're seeing it with the Championship today, is the possible finishing position of teams. Technically, Crawley could still finish 17th, and Cambridge United could finish 18th. We'll get on to my favourite stat. There's currently one team where it's impossible for them to either get playoffs or relegation. We'll get on to them in a minute. There's only one team in League One where that's technically the case. But yeah,
Sam's quiz later, because I think I know the answer to that one.
Is it not? There is one team. But yeah, Cambridge, they're down. They could only finish 18th, and Crawley, they're down. I mean, Birmingham is probably going to be the nail in the coffin, you'd imagine. Cambridge, Huddersfield, for as much as we'll mock them in a little bit, they've still got a lot of decent players, so that's not an easy game. And Orient, again, they're in sort of playoff form because they're in for contention for that. So both of them ain't got anything to fight for, really, I don't think.
Definitely. And the next one is Exeter, Seb. And we talk about these on our review show in terms of how well they've done the FA Cup. They're perhaps not in the league. They play Burton and Crawley. So that Burton game is obviously huge for Gary Bowyer's team. And then Crawley, as we've mentioned, could already be relegated mathematically by then.
Yeah, just having sort of a strong finish to the season and picking up a couple of good results. They've got the opportunity to do that. Obviously, Burton are going to be putting up a really big fight in their charge to stay up in the league. But yeah, Exeter 15th. You mentioned the FA Cup run. I think they can be really impressed. I think with the current league position and also stuff going on elsewhere as well. It's been inconsistent at times. There was a period of too many losses in a row that they would have liked, but actually they've come back sort of and turned the corner a little bit in recent weeks.
And Glenny Boy in the chat has said about Huddersfield, what's happened to them. We're going to come on to them in the second half when we come to talk about the playoffs. Next up is Lincoln. Callum, it'd be rude not to throw to you here. I wrote an article today that's not out yet, but about the fact that they can be sort of the kingmakers between now and the end of the season, because they've got Reading and Bolton this weekend, who are obviously the two teams fighting for playoffs, as Sam, I don't know how to describe that, praise that for Leyton Orient State, that there's a couple of Lincoln wins. And then after that, they've got Stockport, who obviously in the playoffs, and Wrexham as well. That's their role, isn't it now, Lincoln? That they can't fight for anything, but they can have a real impact in terms of the teams that are.
Well, they literally cannot fight for anything. They were the team that I alluded to earlier. They cannot get relegated. The lowest they can finish is 20th, and the highest they can finish is 7th. So that they cannot get playoffs and they cannot get relegated. The only team in the whole league that is the case. For Lincoln, I mean, there's a lot of talk about this. It's just about experimenting, really. There's a lot of players, there's a couple of young players as well that want to get the boots on, the likes of, say, Nakoro, who made his league debut last time, maybe try and keep Joe Gardner for next year. There's a lot of talk about that. There's a lot of talk today about Sam Clucas and whether he's got a clause in his contract, and that seems to have kicked up a fuss. I think for Lincoln, it's this end of the season is about proving themselves. Kabbalah has said it a lot of times. You've got these big teams who are the ones that want to get promoted. Well, if Lincoln want to do that next year, which James Collins has talked about in press conference interviews, it sounds like he was signed with the promise of challenging for playoffs this year, but that's not happened. They need to prove to themselves that they can challenge, and they've not done that this year. So, yeah, a chance to not only make kings, but prove that they're the kings in the making, I suppose.
And look at that. That's clippable, that kind of fantastic.
There you go.
A little bit lower down the table is Mansfield. They're in 18th. There's 3 teams in 18th. One of those we'll come to in a second. They have Rotherham and Reading over the Easter weekend. Again, they're another team that, I mean, obviously mathematically can go down, as Callum has mentioned there, but they're not going to go down and they're not going to go up, despite their amazing start to the season.
Yeah, and actually, it's a year ago today, exactly, since they achieved promotion from League Two. So I think for them to not really be worried about relegation, for side to just come up, I think is really good going. They're actually sort of the worst achieving promoted sides from last year, which I think is mental, given that they are in 18th, and there's still a couple of places above that relegation zone. But I guess any other normal season, and perhaps the sides that come up would be fighting at the bottom, and Mansfield aren't doing that really. They've had bad run of form in the last 3, but before that they actually picked up a couple of good results, back-to-back wins against Barnsley and Bristol Rovers, and then a few draws in there as well. So they can be really pleased with their season. I think they're sort of, I guess, unlucky that they also came up with Stockport and Wrexham, who absolutely have overachieved this year. So they can be relatively pleased, I think, with their finish this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And they're level on points with Northampton, also on 47. They play Charlton, who obviously are battling to finish as high as they can in terms of getting a home second leg in the playoffs, and Shrewsbury as well, with Michael Appleton looking to, I guess, just prove that there's something there, isn't there, in terms of looking towards next season. But Northampton, it's been Kevin Nolan's, I guess, the interesting factor, isn't he, with Northampton, because he sort of made them at times hard to beat, but they've just been lacking consistency.
Yeah, I think that comes down to a lack of quality at the same time. I think Kevin Nolan's made them, like you say, extremely difficult to beat. And I think that he's been under David Moyes at West Ham for the last 3 years. So he's learnt his trade now. I think he had a brief spell at Notts County. He's had a brief spell at Orient as manager, learnt his trade under an experienced manager in David Moyes, won a European trophy with them as well, and has obviously come back into management with Northampton, which was a risky move at the time, considering where they were in the league. But he has steadied the ship, and to keep Northampton in League One for look like it's going to be a 3rd year in a row is rather impressive, because they have been a yo-yo club. They usually spend 1 year sort of where they are, then go down, come back up. So for them to go into a 3rd season in League One, I think Kevin Nolan's done a very good job. And since I think it's the 26th of December, they would be 14th in League One, which just shows how much of a decent job he has actually done there.
Definitely that. And Peterborough just 1 point ahead, up in 16th. They have Stockport and Barnsley across Easter weekend. I guess the EFL trophy has been the big thing for them, and winning that, first team to do it back to back, and that incredible record at Wembley remains. That isn't it the best at Wembley now? They were tied with Barcelona for most 4 out of 4, and now they've got 5 out of 5. I think that's correct. I mean, that was quite impressive, and it's impressive how they've turned it around, haven't they, recently? Because they were in a real trouble of getting relegated, and now they're well clear and are sort of cruising towards the end of the season.
I think at one point it was 2 points, wasn't it? That they could have been, they were above the relegation zone. Now it's, you say they're clear, they're only 6 points clear, which I suppose is a lot closer than a lot of Peterborough fans would have kind of wanted at the start of this year. But on reflection, they did get rid of a lot of players. Well, to say get rid of, they lost a lot of players is probably the better terminology over summer. This year was always going to be, in effect, a transition year. It hasn't been a great year for them, but to me, Peterborough are that side that they kind of fall into the Rotherham category of the yo-yos between League One and the Championship. And to me, that's where they should be. Hopefully, well, I don't want to say hopefully from a Lincoln perspective, but hopefully for Peterborough fans, you can be back there challenging next year. I just hope that you finish below Lincoln this year, because there was a real chance a couple of weeks ago that for all your troubles, you were still going to beat the Imps. So if you could just stay away from the top half of the league, that'd be grand. Thank you.
Obviously, the big thing with Peterborough is always the transfer windows, and the summer will be telling once again, and not to be too selfishly in plugging that if you do subscribe, you'll be able to up to date when the season does come to a close in terms of all our transfer bits and pieces in the summer. Rotherham are next. Their big news being a new manager. Mansfield and Wigan are the teams they will play over the weekend, and Matt Hamshaw in as an interim. I described it as a work experience, a trial before you buy, and they've bought him now because he's the permanent manager at Rotherham. Seb, I think that's a good appointment. Do you?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, the whole place has picked up since Matt Hamshaw's come in. I mentioned that in our review episode as well, in terms of more fans in attendance at the New York Stadium. Results have more or less gone their way. Yes, they fell to defeat at the weekend to Stockport, but Stockport, they've just seemed to be sort of, I guess, battering everything that comes their way so far this season. So we can't look too much into that one, but they did take the lead, actually, in fairness. But yeah, Matt Hamshaw, really good appointment. Tony Stewart has actually come out in the Rotherham advertiser and said that there was interest elsewhere in Matt Hamshaw, but for him to sort of sign the contract and secure that 3-year deal, I think is really good going and really positive news, I think, for Rotherham United.
I mean, on Rotherham and Matt Hamshaw, I'm just worried that It's very easy to have this new manager bounce. For me, it's his first managerial job. You had that short caretaker spell at Derby, but when it's your first managerial job, it's always a worry as to how that translates long period. I think the start of next season will be huge for Rotherham. That's kind of where I'll make my mind up on this, because it's so easy to just have a couple of games, new manager bounce. It's the long run that I'm intrigued about.
To be fair, we said the same. Well, yeah, similar sort of time last year when Steve Evans took over about this sort of time, saying he's got the end of the season, and then the summer's really important, and the summer was really important. Bringing all those players, and then it just sort of backfired a little bit. I know exactly what you're saying, but yeah, I guess having him in before the season finishes, I think should be advantageous. I think.
Shrewsbury next. They have Wigan and Northampton over Easter weekend, sitting bottom, and that's probably where they're going to finish. I guess the interesting thing for them is in terms of looking ahead to next season. Michael Appleton has made noises, hasn't he, in terms of sort of hinting that he'd want to stay past the summer, and the fans at Shrewsbury seem keen in that regard. And I guess that is the interesting point at this stage for Shrewsbury.
Yeah, it's just about building for next season, I think, for Shrewsbury. And it has been for a little while. Obviously, it probably doesn't help that Gareth Ainsworth decided, I'm going to go back to League Two with Gillingham. He must think that Gillingham have, or probably do have, a bigger budget and more potential to get promoted. It's well renowned that Shrewsbury's takeover expired its exclusivity period, failed to go through, which probably hasn't helped. So off the pitch, it's a bit of a mess, shall we say. While they're in safe hands, it's a bit of a mess that the takeover hasn't gone through and stuff like that. The playing squad was always going to be a struggle this year. Paul Hurst did his best that he could. You get Gareth Ainsworth, you think a safe pair of hands. And at one point, we did think potentially they could get out of it. That hasn't come to fruition. So he gets no relegation on his CV because he's sodded off before the R is next to their name. They get Michael Appleton, who's in the need, I think, to rebuild his reputation after what happened at Charlton last season. While Shrewsbury will go down, that won't go on him. He could go there, get them back up next year and try and rebuild them as a stable League One club now.
Yeah, it's a win-win for Michael Appleton. I spoke about that when it was announced, in terms of the fact that if they go down, as you've mentioned, Sam, it's not his fault. And if he picks up a couple of wins, then it looks great for him in terms of looking ahead to next season. Stevenage have Blackpool and relegation threatened Bristol Rovers. We'll get to them in just a second. And we'll clump them in with Wigan, who have Shrewsbury and Rotherham over the weekend. They're two teams sitting mid-table, and it's all looking ahead to next season now for these sort of teams.
Yeah, I mean, Stevenage, as much as I think I've always said this year, I thought they'd be all right. Obviously, without Steve Evans, they've kind of inherited. They've still got most of the squad from last year. They have that kind of defensive nature in them. Only conceding 44 goals this year, which is probably one of the lowest numbers in the whole league. I can't count it off the top of my head, but they're doing. They're very strong at the back. I worry for them next year. I think Alex Ravel, great manager. He's done very well to keep them up. I mean, we all know Stevenage don't have the biggest budget. Which is fair play. That they're one of the sides that do outperform what they do, and they seem like a good club. But I don't want to say I worry whether he'll get a bit too confident and try and form this Stevenage side in his own image. And by that I mean starting to play a bit more attacking football, kind of loosen up defensively and play more attacking. And I worry for them next year in terms of this season. It's all about trying to end it on a good string of form, a good run of form, and using this season to kind of experiment with that. If you're going to try and play attacking football, you might not have the players you want to do it, but try and experiment. We'll clump Wigan into this as well. Again, for them, I don't want to say I'm disappointed by them, but they've been the nothing team this year. I always look at the comparison between Peterborough and Wigan. That they're basically next to each other in the table. They are next to each other, just separated by a single point. Peterborough have scored 62, conceded 72. Wigan have scored 35, conceded 39. Like, it's so two completely different ways of playing football. I'd just like to see Wigan off for that little bit more, because they were a Premier League team growing up. It's just a bit sad to see them being a bit anonymous in League One, really.
Yeah, and I think obviously at the end of the season we'll go through and shamelessly look at our predictions, and I think they were one I had near the playoffs. I was really optimistic, and so that to bite me. But yeah, they're both sort of looking towards next season, different reasons in terms of Alex Ravel, and then obviously Ryan Lowe a bit newer in the job, and that brings us on now to looking at the two battling for the final to be out of the final relegation spot before we come to Sam's quiz, and that is of course Burton and Bristol Rovers. Burton are now out of the relegation zone on goal difference, the first time since September that they've been above the red line, and they have, before the end of the season, they have an extra game as well with a game in hand. They have Exeter, Birmingham, Cambridge, Wigan, which is the game in hand, and then Charlton. As for Bristol Rovers, who are looking to turn the ship around, they have Wrexham, Stevenage, Reading and Blackpool. I look at that, Seb, and I read two fixture lists that aren't too dissimilar in terms of difficulty.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that there's both sides have got a couple of difficult fixtures, and both sides have got a couple of fixtures that could be winnable, if you like. So they're sort of pretty evenly matched. What I would say is the difference between the two sides is the game in hand for Burton. I think that is really big. Obviously, at this part of the season, it's massive, really, for Burton Albion in the position that they are, that they've got a chance to extend their lead, really, from that danger area. And it's playing Wigan, and Wigan, as Callum just mentioned, don't have anything to play for. They've been a bit nothing all season, and so I can absolutely see Burton taking advantage of that. You know, the three of the last 5 games for Burton are at home, and how much this on the review episode. I think that could be really a big advantage for Burton, really, going forward. And Bristol Rovers have got a couple of tricky fixtures in there as well, but then they have Wrexham away, and they have Reading as well that are on good form. So yeah, both sides have got tricky fixtures, so it won't be easy for either of them. But I could just see Burton just edging out because of that game in hand.
And for everyone that is watching, do comment which of the two you think will stay up. And Sam, what say you on it? I mean, Burton are always the ones for me. I think every week I'll say they're hard to beat, Burton, and because it's Gary Bowyer's sort of team, isn't it? And that has sort of come good for them of late.
Yeah, it's the job Gary Bowyer's done since he walked in the door has been exceptional. But it's the 3rd year in a row Burton have done this. Bottom at Christmas, near enough. We all think, they're doomed, and they somehow creep out of the drop zone. It doesn't, in a way, surprise me that they've started to score goals. They've got Ruben Burrell, who got 21 goals at Cove Rangers last year. You give a goal scorer a run of games, guess what happens? They start scoring goals. I think he's got 10 goals since January, which is one of the best in League One. I think he's behind Kelman, and I think it's Alfie May who's got 10 goals since January. So I think that's the difference between them and Bristol Rovers. While Bristol Rovers' home form is exceptional, and Burton's is I think it's the worst in the league, Burton's home form. Yeah. It's a completely different side, but Burton are exceptional away. They're mid-table away from home. So in terms of their away games, they're probably looking at beating Exeter. They're going to have to beat Cambridge, I think. And they're at home to Wigan. Wigan will probably have nothing to play for at that point. So that could be an easier game for them. I don't think they'll get anything against Charlton or Birmingham. So they are the 3 games they've got to target. For Bristol Rovers, they won't get anything at Wrexham. Wrexham have got the 2nd best home form, so they won't get anything there. Stevenage at home is a game they're going to have to target, because Stevenage, like we've said, they're kind of mid-table. They're going to look probably to next season to try things. Reading have got something to play for, while Reading aren't the best away. Bristol Rovers are strong at home. You think that's a game that Bristol Rovers have to target, and then they travel to Blackpool on the final day, who knows, might have something to play for. And they've only lost 3 games at home all season, Blackpool as well.
Definitely. And Callum, to come to you last. I know you're obviously from Burton, but yeah, I'm going to ask you to make the case, because we're all backing Burton. Can you make the case for Bristol Rovers? Can we see them getting back out of the relegation zone?
My girlfriend Beau will tell you I'm the king of playing devil's advocate, so I'm going to try my best here. I heard also, Bristol Rovers fans, if you want a bit of luck, subscribe. I heard subscribing gives your team like a good chance of survival. I'm clutching at straws here. For them, I think it's the fact that no one's got any hope on them. I suppose, we see it around the country, notably in the National League springs to mind. Ebbsfleet have been shocking all year, and their relegation's confirmed, and now they're starting to be not great, but all right. They're scoring a goal, which I suppose is quite useful. But this is the League One lowdown, so maybe the fact that they're now in the relegation zone will give them that kick up the backside. I suppose that's what needed. That's what is needed. The fact that they've got Wrexham next, I mean, all the cameras will be on them, all the lights will be on them, so perhaps that's also an added incentive to do something. It's not helped many teams this year, but it could help them this year. I don't know. It's one of them, Bristol Rovers. I mentioned it at the time, I think, but Lincoln beating them and hammering them 5-0 was shocking. Like they were really poor that day, and it just felt that they were very tired.
They looked scared in that game, is the way I thought. Like, that first goal went in, and it was if that was it. You knew it was how it was going to finish.
And the words from the manager, Ignacio Calderon, were really interesting. It's like these players know how to play. They're just tired, and they can't. Their body is telling them how to do it, and they can't do it. And that's really interesting to me because we're down to this one game a week now. Very few teams have got midweek. I don't think any teams have got midweek fixtures, really. There's like a couple of TV games, if that. So I don't get why your players should be rested now. So when it is a mental thing. I'm really struggling, Bristol Rovers fans, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can faintly hear the noise of straws being clutched in the background.
They are very, very heavily clutched.
Before we get to the quiz, I guess we'll go a quick. I think we all know what we're going to say. I'm going to go for Burton out of the two of them to stay up. Seb?
Go for Burton as well. Yeah, I back Burton.
Callum?
Get yourself down to the Pirelli. I think Burton will, and I don't think it'll even be difficult. I don't think it'll even go down to the final day.
There you are. And I'll pass to you for the quiz, Sam, and I'll let you say Burton or Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, but full house. Burton now going to stay in League One, and we get to talk about them again next year. So if you want to take part in the quiz, in the chat, I'm going to attempt to put a link. There is now a link to a Google form in the chat. Oh, my face is now being covered. Let me just... There we go. If you want to take part in the quiz...
I think all our names are swapped here.
Hi, I'm Seb.
There we go.
Oi, I'm Seb.
There we are.
I need to do a Barnsley accent. And I'm doing the quiz.
That might be the worst accent anyone's ever attempted.
I'm doing the quiz.
So if you want to take part, it's in the comment section now. It's a Google form. Take part if you want. I get to see all the responses at the end, and we'll see which fan base is the smartest. So Callum, Jamie and Seb are going to take it on. I'm going to read the question and the multiple choice answers. And then at the end of the show, we're going to read the answers out and we'll see if you're smarter than our 3 League One hosts here, which you probably all are.
I like your confidence.
So, yes, got confidence in all of you. You better all get at least 15.
Pen and paper at the ready. We're going to give the answers, or Sam will give the answers at the end of the show.
Yeah. So, question 1. I'm going to give you 20 seconds maximum on each question because we don't want to spend too long on this. So, question 1 is, which player leads the goals and assists chart? Is it A, Jay Stansfield, B, Richard Kone, C, Charlie Kelman, D, Alfie May, or E, Davis Keylor Dunn? That is question 1. Everyone's gone.
You had to at least give one of your players a shout there, didn't you, Sam?
Oh yeah, of course. Everyone's got.
I don't see you mentioning Ben House's name there.
Right, the only thing he's good for is elbows.
Not even going to argue with that.
Question 2 is, which League One club has the most draws in the league this season? Is it A, Wigan Athletic, B, Lincoln City, C, Blackpool, or D, Burton Albion?
I should take the League One table I've got in front of me.
Yes.
I was just thinking the same.
I should minimise my tabs.
We're all praying that I've got this exactly right as well, bearing in mind. So imagine I get one of these wrong, I'm going to be fired from quiz hosting forever. Question 3. You all know I love my expected points table. According to the expected points table, which League One club has the biggest difference in position with 12? Is it A, Exeter City, B, Mansfield Town, C, Reading, or D, Leyton Orient?
12.
12 positions. According to expected points, they are 12 positions different to where they should be, according to the
Can you just repeat the options, please, Sam?
Yeah. A, Exeter City, B, Mansfield Town, C, Reading, or D, Leyton Orient?
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Number 4 is who is the only club in the top half with a negative goal difference? Is it A, Lincoln City, B, Bolton Wanderers, C, Huddersfield Town, or D, Barnsley?
Barnsley.
Hey,
I love saying the word Barnsley.
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 And question 5 is which club has scored the least goals away from home? Is it A, Exeter City, B, Bristol Rovers, C, Shrewsbury Town, or D, Cambridge United? That is question 5.
Team I was hoping for didn't come up there. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, A, Exeter City, B, Bristol Rovers, C, Shrewsbury Town, or D, Cambridge United?
This is much harder than the Christmas live stream quiz.
Yes,
I have
it
to
is.
say.
Yeah.
Where
We
we
did
actually
shocking
say
in that one.
capitals in Europe was the decider.
And I won that, didn't I? So have I got
You
a
did,
crown
yeah.
or something to defend?
Question 6. Which goalkeeper has the highest save percentage? Is it A, Ryan Alsop, B, Josh Keeley, C, Arthur Okonkwo, or D, Sam Tickle? I love the thinking on everyone's face. It's brilliant.
That's a guess.
That is
They've
question
all been
6.
guesses so far.
Question 7. Which goalkeeper has the lowest save percentage? Is it A, Jed Steer, B, Jamal Blackman, C, Nathan Baxter, or D, Joseph Wallacott?
yeah, there's some bad options there.
Yeah. If you
My
need the club
one
which
memory
they
of
play
Jamal
for-
Blackman from this season being that I was at their Peterborough Shrewsbury game and he just sort of stood in the middle of his box as a corner went directly in behind him.
Question 8 is which player has had the most red cards this season? Is it A, Terence Van Kooten, B, Paudy O'Connor, C, Emmanuel Fernandez, or D, Shaq Ford? So if you want to play along in the chat, there is a link. I'm going to put it on the screen again. If you want to have a play along, feel free.
And
See
even
who's
if you
fastest
start
at
now,
this.
you're probably going to do better than the three of us. And we've moved
Yeah.
around on screens again, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to attempt a Barnsley accent, but
Oh, come on.
The
do it.
advantage of a Google form is
my
they can
accent's
fill in
not, I
whatever
guess
they
it's
want.
not too far from a Barnsley accent, mine anyway.
No, you're not far. You're a fellow Yorkshireman.
Ah, that's it.
I'm the most southern one here. I'm the only southern one here.
Mhm.
Question 9 is who has created the most big chances? Is it A, Ryan Barnett, B, Corey O'Keefe, C, Joe Powell, or D, Jamie Donnelly? That's
I
question
am
9.
doing terribly.
Go on, can we come again
Wait.
with those?
Ryan Barnett, Corey O'Keefe, Joe Powell, or Jamie Donnelly? That's question 9. Question 10. Which current League One player has the most successful dribbles per game on average? Not the most successful dribbles in total, the most successful
average,
dribbles per game on average. Is it A, Junior Quiterna of Crawley? I'll give you the club on that one. B, Kwame Poku. C, Tom Bloxham. Or D, Tyrese Campbell?
You're standing there like shutting your eyes and imagining them dribbling.
We're going to lose our jobs as pundits here, aren't we?
I reckon
'Cause
so.
all I'll say, I'm good when I've got the numbers in front of me. I'm good at that. But memorizing what those numbers are does not.
Yeah, you
end
can't
well.
you can't go on vibes on this quiz, can you, Cam?
No, because the stats man's in charge of it.
Yeah. I had to make it quite difficult because I could have made it really easy, but I thought, no, I'm going to be a git.
Well, I do XG stats sometimes, and I'm quite proud of myself. And then we're getting dribbles on average per 90 stats now, and I've sort of been blown out the water.
Number 11 is Neil Harris returned to Cambridge United this season, but which club did he previously leave Cambridge to join last season? A, Gillingham, B, Millwall, C, Swansea, D, Cardiff. That is question 11.
Surely that's a guaranteed point, Callum, for you.
He looks like he's really confused with life at the moment.
Go through it again.
That's probably the only one I'm 100% on.
Yeah.
A. Gillingham, B. Millwall, C. Swansea, D. Cardiff.
Again, it's a guess though, because
No.
I'm terrible at this.
Callum.
Question 12 is which League One player has the most tackles per 90? So not in total, per 90. Is it A. Jack Curry, B. Luca Hall, C. Connor Coventry, or D. George Dobson? It's like an episode of Countdown in here. We just need the countdown clock.
Can we do that next time? Because I'll probably stand a better chance of that, to be honest.
We'll just do League One, like football-related countdown.
Yeah, League One players with these.
The conundrum's just a 9-letter player surname.
Yeah,
you know
do
what?
I'm down?
End of the season, I
We
will
could do that,
create
yeah.
a countdown quiz as a little fun end of season thing. I'll do that.
Can that be like at the end of the quiz? You've got to tiebreaker 5 points. Do a conundrum.
Yes, I will make one at the end of the season. Question 13 is Bolton have conceded 1.5 goals per game on average so far this season. This is their worst since what year? Is it A, 2021, B, 1920, C, 1718, or D, 1415?
When did they get relegated? Being the question here, isn't it? They're a team bounded Bolton, who they've just been in the league seemingly forever, isn't it? They've just sort of they get lost in the ether a little bit.
So, like I say, if you want to take part in this quiz, it is in the YouTube chat.
Yes.
We've had a couple of responses through already. I can see at the top.
Fantastic.
Question.
I say fantastic. If they do better than us, it's not fantastic.
Well, I let my boss at work have a go at this. He got 3, but he doesn't like League One football. But he still got 3 right. Question 14 is who are the league's lowest scorers? Is it A, Shrewsbury Town, B, Cambridge United, C, Wigan Athletic, or D, Northampton Town?
Did Callum give this one away earlier?
Might have done actually, yeah.
Depends if anyone was listening. I
Well, I
not a lot
didn't
of
know.
people-
I didn't.
Not a
know
lot
that-
of people listen to Callum, but
Yeah, it's valid. Yeah.
question 15 is what team averages the least possession? A, Northampton Town, B, Lincoln City, C, Shrewsbury Town, or D, Burton Albion? That's question 15. So we are nearing the end.
And if you'd like to apply for a presenting job on League One Lowdown, you can do
And
very
while-
shortly.
I'll tell you
And
what,
while you're
good
in
job,
live chat-
good job none of our sides are getting promoted. Maybe you are, Sam, but means we're all guaranteed our job next year in the League One Lowdown.
Well,
and
I
if you
could
want
be
to-
all right because Doncaster could be getting promoted.
That's
I
true.
mean, not
yeah.
Not if you do what you did
potentially
last
not
year.
as
Well.
well. I know.
And if you want to take part,
it's salted.
it is in the live chat. Make sure you subscribe while you're in the live chat as well.
Look at it.
Question
Expert.
16 is which team has hit the woodwork the most this season? Is it A, Stockport County, B, Reading, C, Bolton Wanderers, or D, Wrexham?
I've gone purely off that one of a team that I think against Lincoln hit the post a couple of times. Just got an
The
image
only
of
thing
them
I
hitting
wish
the
I
post.
did because I'm looking at the Google form, I wish I put the actual numbers next to them in terms of like most dribbles, but I didn't. I based it all off my trusty website.
Fantastic.
Question 17 is which player has the most successful dribbles in total? Is it A, Junior Katerna, B, Rob Apter, C, Kawami Poku, or D, Tyrese Campbell? I know this one. They've got 72 successful dribbles this season.
Near enough a couple of games, isn't it? That's good going.
Mm-hmm.
We are purely going off vibes now.
Yes.
Yeah, I've joined you, Ken. I was taking the mess earlier, but I've firmly joined you now.
Number 18 is who is Stevenage's top scorer? Is it A, Jamie Reid, B, Dan Kemp, C, Jake Young, or D, Jordan Roberts?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be own goals or something like that, or Piergiani from
That's
headers
what I
or something like
I thought
I was sat there waiting for Piergiani to come up there.
that. Love you, Stevenage fans. You're going to be here
Did we
next
see?
year. You might as well
I guess as
subscribe.
a brief interlude, did we see their Twitter last week before on the junior takeover day?
Yeah,
They
it's
had a young
brilliant.
lad
Oh, I
doing the
loved
tweet.
it. I loved it. I saw some hate for it, and I thought it was
No,
brilliant.
it's fantastic. One of us that we can't get out of our own box.
He's
He's
hit
been
his
hitting
head.
the head. Yeah.
Question 19. Who is the only fan-owned club in League One? Is it A, Exeter City, B, Burton Albion, C, Blackpool, or D, Shrewsbury Town?
Surely, Callum, you got that one.
I know that one because Sam says it every single episode. So there you go.
So if you actually watch the preview episode, you might get that answer correct. Question 20. Which club spent the most on agent fees from the year February 2024 to February 2025? Is it A, Birmingham City, B, Wrexham, C, Huddersfield Town, or D, Charlton Athletic?
I have a feeling we might be having a comedy roast at their expense in at the second half of this podcast. And if you follow Twitter, if you follow our X, League One Lowdown, we were talking about that the other day.
Mm-hmm. Now, don't go over to Twitter and look it up. Don't do that. That's cheating.
You can follow my shameless plug in a few moments' time.
Question 21. Who has created the most big chances for Lincoln City this season?
None
Is
of
it A,
George
Rico Hackett, B, Tendai Darikwa, C, Sean Rowan, or D, Tom Bayliss?
That's really, really difficult, that one, because
That is
none of them have done anything.
I'm sure you feel the same, Callum, because I feel an obligation. I should know the answer to that question. So
I'm
Bayliss,
going
Hackett,
the one I'm
Rowan, or
putting
Darikwa.
down. Yeah, well, I can rule. I'm going off. I'm ruling people out before I'm ruling people in on that one. If I'm honest.
Yes.
3 questions to go. Question 22 is which squad has the highest average age with 29.4?
Ooh.
Is it A, Wrexham, B, Shrewsbury Town, C, Mansfield Town, or D, Huddersfield Town?
Pensioner FC.
I was rather alarmed when I looked at that and it saw 29.4.
There's still a chance I could make it as a pro, guys. Still a chance.
Still time.
Yeah, I'm the oldest one here. There's still chance for me.
I would have made it. I would have made it if it weren't for my ankle. You know.
I got injured in Sunday League, snapping somebody in half with my ankle, so I was screwed. Question 23: which team has scored the most goals away from home? Is it A, Wycombe Wanderers, B, Leyton Orient, C, Birmingham City, or D, Blackpool? That is the penultimate question.
The Duck Father in the chat says, crazy that Patrick Mahomes has a share of Burton. Which I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
It's the
NFL's coming
interesting
everywhere.
thing about Burton, other than beer, isn't it? Not a lot happens.
And the final question before we get onto the answers right at the end of the show. Question 24 is which team averages the least corners per 90? Is it A, Bristol Rovers, B, Burton Albion, C, Northampton Town, or D, Crawley Town? So that document will be in the chat for anyone that wants to participate until the end of the show, at which time I will then close the responses so nobody can cheat.
Oh, that's horrible. And the fact that we've
Interesting.
now
Good
got
one,
to
Sam.
sit. Yeah. We've got to now sit
Fantastic.
for the second half of this podcast without knowing whether I've got a job for next year.
I think if we got the Lincoln one wrong, me and you, Callum, that is a real damning indictment of our.
Yeah, it's just for me and you next year, Sam. Just for me and you next year.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Sam. And we're going to move on. Bang on the hour almost. That is absolutely perfect. Yeah. And we're going to move on to the teams right up the top. We're going to come to Wrexham and Wycombe later on in terms of who's battling for second. But we're going to do the playoff chasing pack, if you like. I guess first is the teams fighting who are going to be in the playoffs. It just depends whereabouts they're going to finish in them, being Stockport and Charlton. Over this weekend, Stockport play Huddersfield and Peterborough, whereas Charlton, they've got Northampton and Wycombe. After that, Wrexham, and we already mentioned the fact that they're playing Burton on the final day. I guess a brief prediction on them. I guess thoughts as well overall on them. That which one do we think is going to finish in fourth? Because it feels like they're not going to be able to finish any higher.
Stockport, I would say. I just think Charlton have got Wycombe and Wrexham away from home. They're two very tough places to go. Wycombe have conceded the least goals since Mike Dodds came in.
Which question was that?
And we know how good Wrexham are at home. So I think Stockport they've got Peterborough. They should, no offence to Peterborough, they should beat Peterborough. Peterborough's, in my opinion, where they've won a trophy, so they've had a successful season. And Huddersfield Town, we will get onto them in a moment and how poor they are. So I think Stockport will be in fourth place. They've got experience of playoff ending seasons as well. I know they lost the final to Carlisle a couple of years ago, but they know how to end a season. Dave Challinger's vastly experienced in these sort of situations. So I think Stockport have got fourth place. Not to say that will be a humdinger of a tie, Stockport Charlton. But I think Stockport will, just because they have the easier fixtures, will finish fourth place.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And we talked about Dave Challinger. Seb, you were ready to dive in there, but about him not being picked in terms of managers of the season. He's done a cracking job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think people forget that, mentioned earlier, Mansfield finishing the lowest of the promoted sides. Well, it's actually Stockport only came up, just a few years ago last year to the league. I think it's really impressive. And I guess had they not come up with Wrexham, I think more would have been spoken about, really. But yeah, to sit fourth with this quality of sides in the division this year, I think is really impressive. Yeah, and kudos to Dave Challinger and the squad, really, because there's not been too many changes from the squad last year, and to be fourth ahead of some of the big clubs in the league, I think is really impressive. Yeah, just to add on what was said earlier, I think I agree in terms of I think it will be Stockport fourth and Charlton fifth. So it means that actually it'd stay as it is, because that's what the rankings are at the minute. Stockport in fourth and Charlton fifth. And I can't really see that changing too much, but it would mean for an exciting playoff semi-final between the two sides.
I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of the whole debate, but I think whoever I think we'll probably do a playoff preview, won't we, at the end of the season and whatnot. But I think it's between these two to who gets promoted. I really think that. I think whoever finishes third will be very disappointed and not do well. And I just don't think either of the teams that could finish sixth have really got the quality to survive in the Championship next season, or even win at Wembley. I mean, I suppose everyone's equal, aren't they? The game starts 0-0, but I really see this battle being the one that decides who gets promoted. I don't think whoever finishes fourth or fifth necessarily has an advantage. Both have to play home and away. I suppose playing home in the second leg probably gives you that slight advantage, perhaps, but not really. I don't really know who I want to back in terms of finishing fourth or fifth. I suppose it doesn't really matter because it's all about who has the best form going into the final end of the season. So yeah, I think it's going to be exciting either way. I'm looking forward to the playoff semi-finals, and I'm happy it's a semi-final, not necessarily the final, because I think that gives us the chance to watch them play each other twice, which would be quite exciting.
I mean, the exciting race is the one just below that. It is between 6th and 9th. It's those four teams in there. Reading is 7 points behind Charlton, so that gap realistically won't be breached. So it is the four teams battling out for one spot. We have Reading in 6th, as I say, on 69 points. Below that, Leyton Orient on 66, Bolton 66, and Huddersfield 64. This is, for me, the really interesting bit of the whole division. We've got the 1 point gap between the second and third. We've got the 3 point gap between the two teams trying to avoid relegation. But this is the real tightly knit sort of area of the table, and it's just really exciting for me. I guess we'll go who we think is going to manage it in a second. But Reading are the team there in the driving seat. They've got Lincoln, Mansfield, Bristol Rovers, and Barnsley. I guess we'll do them 1v1, and that is a nice fixture list between now and the end of the season. Bristol Rovers, obviously, they have something to play for, but we've talked the Bristol Rovers, as Callum nicely sort of summarises. He was clutching at straws earlier on to find a reason we're going to think they're going to stay up. But Lincoln, Mansfield, Barnsley, all in that sort of area in mid-table, and it's in their hands, and you'd fancy them, I think.
Go on, Seb.
Yeah, you absolutely would. I think they're, been underrated all season in terms of a lot of the off-field matters, but in terms of on the pitch, and sort of just shut out the noise and just got on with it. And you absolutely would. The fixtures are very favourable for Reading, and Mansfield and Lincoln and Barnsley, as you said, sort of in that mid-table region, enough to play for. Might be a couple of youngsters for all the sides being involved in some of the starting 11. So. Reading have to take advantage of that, really. And as for Bristol Rovers, their season might be over by the point that they play Reading. So, they've got a pretty favourable run in. And I think massive kudos to Reading and to Noel Hunt, and before that, sort of Ruben Sellers, for setting the foundations of what has been a surprisingly good season, I think, really. For us to be even talking about Reading in the playoff contention, I think is, massive respect to everyone involved in the club. But on paper, the fixtures look very favourable for Noel Hunt's side.
I mean,
them is late. Sorry, go on.
Go on. Yeah, I mean, Reading. If you go through what we've spoke to people who are involved in the Reading situation, if you head through the channel's podcasts, hit subscribe while you're there, of course. But we've spoke to people about that. We'll continue to monitor that situation as well. It might be out of their hands. I mean, there's that horrible idea that they could get sixth and then get disqualified from the league, I think. So I'd hate to see that happen. I really don't want it to be decided off the field. I think that's the... I mean, I'm obviously a big Formula One fan. Me and Sam, I know, are. And it's horrible when a race is decided off the track, sorry. I've really, that's something we never hoped would ever happen in football. So let's hope that's not the case either.
Yeah, very important that. And Leighton Orient next, I'll obviously go to you, Sam. It's Barnsley, Cambridge, Wycombe and Huddersfield before the end of the season.
Yeah, it's a really... If you offered me this at the start of the season, so I tweeted out the other day that if you offered Orient fans your 4 games to go, you're 3 points off the playoffs, you had a Premier League away tie, better goal difference as well, which could be worth a point at the end of the day, because if Reading lose and we win, it's level on points. So goal difference could be worth that extra point. So if you offered Orient fans, let's say the season finished today, you finished 7th place, you had an away trip to a Premier League club in the EFL Cup in September. Obviously, that was at Brentford, and we took the lead in that game. We then had the Premier League champions and arguably one of the best ever Premier League sides come to our place, and we score a goal from the halfway line and give them a scare at our place in Manchester City. I think most fans would have taken it, and to be in the position we're in is incredible, quite frankly. And whatever happens, I don't think we could have been prouder of this group of players, because they're such a young group. And considering in November, a lot of people were tipping us for relegation. We can't forget that. The goal that Josh Keeley scored against Oldham in the Cup has completely pirouetted this season on its head. So we go into this with zero fear, zero pressure, which I think could work for us. The pressure is always on your teams like Bolton, your Huddersfield, your big budgets. Reading and the team in there, so the pressure's on them as well. But we're just kind of there. Then 5 defeats in a row hadn't helped. My argument is, do a team that have lost 16 games this season even deserve the opportunity to go into the playoffs? Because I think you've got the top 5 this year, then there's a really big gap. And I don't think there should have been. Like, we're also competing with Bolton, Huddersfield, Charlton, Stockport, Wycombe, Wrexham and Birmingham, who have massive budgets compared to us. So I think it's kudos to everyone at the football club that we're even in this position. I suggested on an episode, I've got to back my own club to win the playoffs and get in there. And I think I will continue to do that, because I think if we're in them, we've got a manager who is an incredibly good tactician and motivator to get the players going for these types of games. Our record against the top 6 is questionable. Like, we lost at Wycombe's place. We have obviously got to play them. Stockport, we smacked them away from home, but lost at home in a really tight game. And Charlton, we've lost both games to them, but the home game we lost through 2 90th minute corners. So I do think we are capable. So I'm backing my own team. We just hope that Barnsley could roll over for us and then go and beat Reading. That would be nice.
Sam, just to ask a quick question, because I can't help but get my presenter hat on. Do you think the club's ready for Championship? Because like you say, I don't think Reading are either. I don't think Leyton Orient are. You've got the likes of Bolton, Huddersfield, who've got those huge budgets. You mentioned, like you say, that the budget's the other club. Do you not think you're best off working on the off-the-field stuff and then go for a promotion push? I mean, like, I'd say exactly the same about Lincoln. I don't think we're ready for the Championship. So
I think you're right to question that. I think it would be a year too early. My only concern is if we have another year in League One, you lose Josh Keeley, you lose Jack Curry, you lose Jamie Donnelly. We're not going to get Charlie Kelman back now. We had a chance to get him in January. The club felt that the fee QPR wanted was too much. Now look what he's done. He's gone and scored more goals than Mbappe in 2025. So his price tag is now up here. So we now can't afford him. So that's Kelman, Curry, Donnelly, Keeley all gone. So there's all your goals and your creativity gone. Ethan Galbraith will probably leave because Championship clubs are sniffing around him in January. We'll get 7 figures for him, but that's another key player out the door. You've got big players out of contract as well. So it is a complete rebuild of a squad. So I think, in my opinion, I think League One will be just as strong next year if we get Luton down. They will be the Birmingham of this year. I don't know if we're going to have a better opportunity than now to try and get in there with the quality of players we've got. It feels like a 13-14 season for us where everything's just kind of culminating together for us to have this one big opportunity to get in. But we've got the new ownership probably coming in with a geezer who owns Fubo TV in America. I don't know what his money... He owned a percentage of Paris FC in the second tier of France. So I don't know what his funding situation is like. It would be nice to give Wellens a bigger budget to see what he can do. I think he's proved that if you give him the resources, he gets clubs to where they should be and where they want to be. So it will be interesting. And I do agree it will be a year too early. But if you get an opportunity to go for the Championship, we're not going to say no.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of that, the Lincoln situation when they got to the playoff final. Obviously, lost to Blackpool in the end, but there was a couple of the low knees, Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers. It was the perfect storm that season. But the 2 more teams, obviously, in this push, and Bolton are level on points with Leyton Orient, but don't have that virtue of a better goal difference. They would remain below Reading, even if Reading lost and they won. They have Wycombe and Lincoln over this weekend, and then Peterborough and Stevenage after that. It's a difficult weekend for them, especially with the Wycombe game. And then you'd say a bit of an easier with the 2 after that. But are they capable of doing it, Seb?
No, I don't think. I think the recent... That was really straight to the point there. But,
No.
I think the recent fixtures and results, and it just haven't been good enough, really. It's 5 defeats in 7. It's really poor, really. Some of the fixtures sort of in this last stretch will be tough. They obviously face Wycombe and Lincoln and Peterborough and Stevenage, who really have enough to play for. So some of those teams may not be putting up quite a fight as perhaps they might have done early on this season, but I genuinely I'm quite concerned for Bolton. They turned a corner when Schumacher first came in, and results were really good, and things are going high, and there seems to be this positivity about the place, and then they just seem to have sort of put the gear stick in reverse and turn back the same way. The results have been really poor, performances have been really poor, and they now have quite a few injuries to deal with as well. Sai Tutu went off injured in the game at Barnsley. I think Sheehan went off injured at halftime. Morley went off on a stretcher. So some of these key players for Bolton now are not available in the final running where they need the players to step up the most. So all of those factors combined, I really can't see Bolton making the playoffs this year.
And you mentioned their 5 losses in 7. The 2 games they've won was a 92nd minute winner against Wigan and a 76th minute against Bristol Rovers. And it tells you even the games they're winning, they're not exactly romping to victory. And another team, I think in that same vein, is Huddersfield. They have Cambridge and Stockport this weekend, with Exeter and Leyton Orient after that. That Leyton Orient game could be huge coming into the season. We'll see how we're looking in 3 weeks' time. But Huddersfield, I mean, we talked a lot about Huddersfield this week, both on our review show and on social media. I think they're a similar boat. You can throw them in as Bolton, Callum.
I think the if we're talking about a boat, this one has sunk quicker than the Titanic. If I'm honest, this year, I don't know. We published an episode, didn't we, a couple of months ago now, actually, saying these teams are arrogant, and I don't necessarily think it's the team. I think it's the backroom staff, and by that I don't mean the kit man and whatnot. I mean the heads of the club, just thinking they can chuck money at, like we've seen, chuck money at agents, which they've just thrown willy-nilly, spending more than Birmingham. I don't think I never thought I'd see a day where I say that a team has spent more than Birmingham on something this year. And that's
no, I haven't got the GIF.
So.
I haven't got the Birmingham spend money GIF.
So for Huddersfield, and I've said this, and Jamie, I'm pretty sure you'd feel the same about this. They've got Lasse Sorensen and Joe Taylor, who were two of Lincoln's best players last year. Without them last year, Lincoln wouldn't have done what they did towards the end of the season, right? And you had that quote. Yeah, you had that quote that's been talked about a lot about a Ferrari being driven off road. I feel like that's the whole club, the whole team. Dare I say it's not just Joe Taylor. They've got these players, and I thought, okay, great, big player, scored a lot of goals. I don't care what system we play him, he'll score goals because that's what players do. And it just doesn't work like that. Gone are the days where you just sign the best rated players on FIFA career mode and you've got the best team and you win everything. That's not how football works. It just isn't. Huddersfield, they're the team that frustrate me the most. They always have this year. There was that incredible run mid-season. They're kind of like a reverse Exeter. They started relatively all right. They're really good in the middle of the season. And this year, they're just flopping. And if for their £1 million plus to spend on agent fees, they're going to get 9th place in return.
I think. Go on, Seb. Sorry.
No, go on. I guess sort of just to say what I said with Bolton as well. For them, it's 6 defeats and 8, and the two other results in that one are victories against Crawley, who are more or less down,
well done.
and Mansfield, who have nothing to play for, and actually themselves have been struggling. Even that was only 2-1. They avoided a late scare, but results, again, similar to Bolton, results on the pitch just haven't been good enough.
I think I mentioned it in the pre-season episode when we were talking about Huddersfield, and I didn't think their summer recruitment overhauled the squad enough. I know they got Lasse Sorensen and Mikael Miller, I think, joined as well, but there wasn't a big enough overhaul. There's that losing mentality at that club. Like, they've been so poor for the past 3 seasons that it got to a point where you need to flog near enough that entire team and completely refresh the squad. Everyone criticises Birmingham for spending so much money, but they gained near enough a lot of it back through getting rid of wages. Huddersfield didn't do that. They've actually recruited more players than they did let go. And I think they signed Herbie Kane as well, like one of the best midfielders in League One. I know they've had injuries, Huddersfield, but I didn't think there was a big enough overhaul in that squad because, it's been proven. It's like they go on a little really good run and there's that bit of momentum building. They lose a game, but then they lose 3, 4, 5 in a row. And then they get back on the horse when they go and beat a relegation fodder team, but then they start losing again. There's just not that. I don't think there's that culture of winning at that football club. And I think this summer is going to be huge in terms of they need to get rid of maybe 10, 11 players and just rebuild the entire playing squad.
And I'll tell you what the big thing for them is this year. When I remember what I was about to say, the big thing is the fans have just started to turn against them as well now. There was this whole idea that, okay, we'll stick together, this kind of camaraderie, that we'll stick together. Okay, it's not the automatics we'd have hoped for, but Birmingham and Wrexham, of course, they were going to get promoted, but we'll still get promoted. And now they're not. And now this number about agent fees has come out, all this money being spent. I mean, that's more than some League One clubs will probably make this year, spent on agent fees. It's not just that. There's obviously other things as well. Obviously now we're talking about season tickets and stuff like that. There's a lot of discontent. So, am I back? Am I here? I'm still here, am I?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
No, you're back. I was butting in too quickly, and then you came straight back.
I thought my
guess
internet went
I don't
again.
want to retread on.
Again.
I don't want to sort of retread on ground because I spoke a lot about Huddersfield on the review show, and I know you mentioned it, Callum, what got put on social media. And I do want to put on the record that I hadn't stolen that from anywhere. It was, quite a surprising coincidence that someone had said exactly the same thing as me. I think the day before, but I think it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? In that sort of with Joe Taylor, obviously we know quite a lot about Callum and just the whole team in general. I think I agree with everything that's been said, really, in terms of it's a massive change that's needed at that team, and we could do a real deep dive into them in the summer, really, because unless they shock us all and somehow get promoted out of League One, but we all expect them to stay in League One, and I think they're a really interesting team to dive into and just try and get to the root of the problem, because it is perhaps just a very long-term issue that is sort of becoming sort of getting to the surface now. And before we move on to the battle for second and the automatic spot, we'll just do a quick, as we did with the relegation. This one I think may have a little bit more disagreement, but who is going to get into sixth spot? I'll kick us off, and I think Reading will stay there. Seb will go the other way across the screen. Seb?
Yeah, I agree, really. Just based on sort of recent form and performances, I think Reading certainly trump Bolton and Huddersfield. Leighton Orient I'm unsure about, but about Reading.
Callum?
I like Bolton's run of fixtures, other than Wycombe, Lincoln, Peterborough, Stevenage. I like that. I think they'll probably leapfrog Leighton Orient. I don't think they'll leapfrog Reading, but I think they'll be. I don't think we've seen the end of that scenario. So I think by hook or crook, I think it'll be decided off the pitch. So on a technicality, I'll go Bolton in the playoffs.
And Sam?
My heart says I've got to back my own club, so my head tells me it'll probably be Reading, but I've got to back my own club. We're in the position, so I'm gonna back my own club.
I'd love it to be Reading. Yeah, I'd love it to be Reading.
Yeah,
could you imagine though if Orient get in and we have to do preview and review shows, and I'm here literally crapping myself during the game?
Oh dear.
Yeah, Callum has mentioned the off-the-field stuff at Reading. We're going to talk to Andy Preston, who we had on when the last sort of big announcement came. We're going to have him the next time something big comes up. He's going to come back on and give us that inside look at it, which is always very useful. So we will sort of keep you updated in that regard. And as Callum would say, do subscribe. You'll be able to keep updated with that. And that leaves us now to go, before we get to the answers of Sam's quiz, to look at the race for second and to see who's going to join Birmingham as automatically promoted teams. Of course, it's Wrexham or Wycombe. Wrexham play Bristol Rovers, Blackpool, Charlton and Lincoln. And Wycombe face Bolton, Charlton, Leighton Orient and Stockport. We mentioned earlier teams who perhaps had similar run-ins. These two, I think there is a big difference between that. Wycombe run-in is about as difficult as it could get. I'd say 4 teams all battling for the playoff spots. It's a really interesting situation, this one.
Yeah, I think you've done Lincoln City a little bit of. I think you boosted their morale a little bit in terms of saying that they were playoff chasing side. But I agree with the other.
No, with Wycombe. I mean, with Wycombe's fixtures.
Yeah. I was thinking that. I was like, what's going on here?
I've not gone that mental.
I was thinking that. Yeah, you're right. In terms of Wycombe's fixtures, I misheard. I thought we said Wrexham. Yeah, Wycombe's fixtures are tough. All 4 of them, as you said, are battling for something. Stockport, I guess, are probably, and Charlton are probably the side not necessarily battling, because I think that they're both confirmed in the playoff spots. It's just a case of what position, and I'm not sure at that point when they're set to play Wycombe whether they might start resting a few players for the playoffs. It's a bit unclear, but I guess certainly with Bolton and Leighton Orient, they will be certainly the ones fighting as much as they can, doing everything they can to get the points on board. So yeah, Wycombe certainly got a bad luck of the bad luck of the draw there, but they will just have to keep going, and they managed to sort of squander out results before the past 2 games. They've won 1-0. It's all about getting a result on the board, and if they can continue to do that, then we would back them. Take advantage of a slight blip, I guess, in recent weeks for Wrexham. Drawing against Wigan and then drawing against Cambridge, not up to the usual Wrexham standard. So Wycombe have to be there and take advantage if there is another slip up. And yeah, they just have to keep going. Really, I think it'll be very interesting. I think.
I mean, you mentioned a couple of slip-ups in terms of the draws. They have one defeat in 10, Wrexham, since they were eliminated from the EFL Trophy. So it's still, I guess, overall been a good run. It's been better than Wycombe's, who have been very inconsistent, I guess is the nicest way of putting it. There was real sort of suggestion that they'd slip off completely and that they would sort of leave this battle for second. But they've just been getting results, 1-0 here and 1-0 there, and a few draws along the way, and they've managed to keep pace, and it is just the 1 point now, the gap between them, Callum. I
mean, dare I say that the best thing about that win against Stevenage was how they won it. It doesn't matter by hook or by crook how you get 3 points. It's almost how you get that momentum, isn't it? Sam mentioned earlier that as a Josh Keeley goal earlier this season. That's huge. All it takes is a goal like that for them to turn things around. I mean, we mentioned in an episode earlier this week, it went out on Monday, a special bonus episode talking about who we think will be in the league next year. And I backed Wrexham. I just think that the stats probably don't back this up in terms of the fact that Wycombe have lost less games this year, but recently Wycombe are losing more games, and I'd rather have draws, if that makes sense. It's easier to you get a point with a draw, don't you? Whereas if you're losing games, you don't. And at the end of the day, dare I point out the blaming obvious, but thanks, Jamie.
It's that feeling that people talk about sort of like so if you win a game and then lose two, it's sort of like you're sort of slightly better off than the draws and that stuff. It's always weird.
Yeah, but
I don't
know. It's one of them. At the end of the day, that the difference is that Wrexham draw games recently anyway, where Wycombe have lost it. If they avoid defeat, then if they avoid defeat against Reading, Wycombe are ahead on goal difference. So it comes down to these fine margins. Dare I say, Wrexham's final game of the season is very favourable against Lincoln.
It's obviously Stockport could by then be resting people for the playoffs, and I don't know how much it stretches to players and coaches and things, but I know sort of experience we've had at Doncaster over the years, when you're playing teams on the final day and you've got nothing to play for and they have, you just want to beat them just so they're as miserable as you are, that you don't go up at the end of the season. And I feel like that always carries through in the stands, and I don't know if that gets any further towards the pitch. But Sam, this is perhaps, as well as obviously the playoffs, the really interesting aspects now as we come to the end of the season.
Oh, 100%. I think, especially in recent years, we've had a lot of really tight battles in League One. The one that springs to mind was when you had Plymouth, Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday, who all had above 95 points, all battling for two positions. And that was rather exciting. We've not got as exciting this year, but we've got a club whose revenue in Wrexham is more than half of the Championship. And if Joe Rodriguez is on his, shall we say, documented wage, then it'll be a very good achievement. I think if Wycombe get above Wrexham, I don't think we all go on about how much Birmingham spend, but I don't think we actually comment on how much Wrexham also spend as well. So I think to be nice to Birmingham, I think that's fair. So in terms of Wycombe, obviously, like you Mel mentioned, they've got a really difficult fixture list. They've all got teams that have got something to play for, but that could work in their favour, weirdly, I think, because the pressure will also be on the opposition to get a result, where the teams that Wrexham are playing, in terms of Blackpool, not really got anything to play for, and Lincoln, it could work as the flip factor. They may well have nothing to play for, might just play with a bit of freedom, and they may well get results. Like we said, Wrexham have been a bit patchy, but the thing that Wrexham have is a vast amount of experience in these sorts of situations. Obviously, their National League triumph, they had that game against Notts County, which when Sedwin Scott missed that penalty with a Ben Foster save. They obviously went up last year in a pretty late situation as well, so they have the experience to do that. and I will back Wrexham to do it, but I don't think it will be as clear cut as we may think it will be.
And then I think, I guess, last point before we go through to giving our prediction, that the managers make a difference at this stage as well. I mean, you mentioned the experience. Phil Parkinson's got as much experience as you could ever wish for, and Mike Dodds is the exact opposite in terms of how much experience he's got as a manager and being in this sort of situation. It's similar down the bottom of the table with Bristol Rovers and Burton in terms of Gary Bowyer having heaps of experience, Inigo Caldon having no experience in terms of managing a team, and being in these sorts of situations, different ends of the table, but very similar in terms of having so much pressure on that it's so difficult if you're new to it, and you can be as good as manager as you want. If you've not had the experience, it makes a whole heap of difference. And that's the reason I think, well, one of the reasons I'm going to agree with you, Sam, and say it will be Wrexham that hold on to that second place, even if it's closer now than perhaps we thought it was going to be. I wonder if you, Callum, first, if you agree with our synopsis.
Yeah, I said Wrexham earlier this week on our who we think will be in League One next year episode. I can't see anything particularly that we've discussed that will change my opinion on that. And it's one of them. I'll feel sorry for Wycombe next year because I still think they'll be in League One next year. I don't think they'll win the playoffs if they have to go through them. But I mean, whichever one goes through and gets automatic promotion, they'll deserve it. They've both been incredible teams this year. So
yeah, and it's one of those where sometimes the team that finish in third aren't going to be favourite for the playoffs, which could be so it's all or nothing, isn't it, in a way? But yeah, go on, Seb.
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and agree with you guys as well. I think Wrexham will trump it.
Should have gone for Callum last because I feel like Callum would have gone contrarian just so to have some disagreement.
Just for the difference.
I think Wrexham will do it. I can't really see. Wycombe. Yeah, I just don't think that they'll have enough, despite sort of the tougher fixture. I think Wrexham will do it.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps us up nicely in terms of looking at the promoting teams, the playoff sides, and down the bottom, obviously, earlier on as well. And the only thing we have left to do is the answers to our quiz. And Sam, I'll hand back to you.
I've got to get myself raised again. Right. So I have some of the answers. I have some of the people from earlier who answered the quiz and their scores. So let's see how you do.
I don't think we need to compare, do we? I'd like to keep my job now.
So nobody got this one correct. Question one. It's kind of a trick question, this one. So which player leads the goal and assist charts? Is it A, Jay Stansfield, B, Richard Kone, C, Charlie Kelman, D, Alfie May, or Davis, Kilo Dunn? Who have you all gone for?
Alfie May.
Shall we work his way across it? I've gone for Richard Kone.
I've gone for Kelman.
So the answer was Alfie May. He has the most goals and assists combined this season.
I've always backed Birmingham. And
which is rather
no one has ever looked so smug on the first answer to the quiz.
It was rather surprising, though, I think, that Alfie May was actually top.
I think, I guess, to sort of flesh that out, because he's not been the number one, has he?
No.
He's been behind Jay Stansfield, and he's been playing off scraps at times, and he's caught him up in terms of goal contributions. He's done a cracking job.
So question 2 was which League One club has the most draws this season? Who have we all gone for?
Blackpool.
Yep, it is Blackpool. Congratulations, you all three. Finally, someone's asked Alfie May 15 goals and 7 assists. I believe he's got 8 assists and 14 goals. That's off the top of my head.
Yeah, quite incredible, isn't it? Do in the chat, keep updated if you have joined in the quiz. Let us know how you're getting on.
Question 3 was according to the expected points table, which League One club has the biggest difference in points position? Nobody's got this one correct either.
This one really sort of spun my head a bit because I was going for who's down the bottom, who could be added 12, and I was like, oh no, I could take away 12. Go on, Callum.
I've gone Reading.
I got really confused. I've gone for Leyton Orient. I think that's really daft.
I put Reading.
It is Reading.
Yeah.
It is Reading. Nobody else got that because everybody actually put Orient. So thanks, everyone.
With their financial troubles, I think coming into the summer, I think a lot of people did. I think they'd be doing a lot worse than they are. So that sort of explains it, I think.
Question 4 was who's the only club in the top half with a negative goal difference?
I've gone Barnsley.
So have I.
I've got Huddersfield.
No, it is Barnsley. Seb.
Bad that. I don't even think we're in the top half. That's why I didn't even put it.
Yeah, you're 11th.
I'm not
Well-
saying I'm going to get 100%, but I'm 4 for 4 at the moment.
This is actually very surprising. Okay.
It is, yeah.
Which club has scored the least goals away from home? Who have we got for that one?
Bristol Rovers.
Cambridge.
Shrewsbury.
It's Bristol Rovers.
Oh, you've seen the answers.
I haven't.
This is
I just know
preview team bias here.
I just know their away form is terrible.
Yeah.
So
Question 6 was which goalkeeper has the highest save percentage? Who have we gone for here?
I think I'm going to lose my 100% here. I've gone Tickle.
I've gone for the same. I think he's got the most clean sheets, so I'm sort
Yeah.
of followed that.
I've done Tickle as well.
No, it's Arthur Okonkwo of Wrexham.
Wow.
Fair play.
The next one was which goalkeeper has the lowest save percentage?
I took Jamie's lead on this, went with Jamal Blackman.
I'd love to say I was sort of thrown in a curve, but I've also gone for Jamal Blackman.
I also took Jamie's lead on this.
Oh, God's sake, Jamie!
And you're all wrong. You should
Oh,
take
dear.
Jamie's lead. It's Joe Wallicott of Crawley.
I do think when I said it, I was like, I could change my answer, see where they all follow on. But
Question 8. Which player has the most red cards this season?
I forgot to write down the actual name, but I went with D.
D's
Whatever
wrong.
D is. Oh, well, there you go.
I've gone for Paudie O'Connor. I'm not sure what number that was, but he
I've
seemed to
got
get red.
for Terence Van Cotten.
Seb wins the point. Seb gets it right. Van Kooten has
Is it
3.
Three.
Everyone else
Three,
has
yeah?
2. Yep.
Yeah.
He's got 3. Everyone else has 2. Question 9 was which player has the most big chances created?
I went with Powell.
I've gone for Barnett.
I went for O'Keefe.
It's Powell.
Oh my word!
Question 10 was which current League One player has the most successful dribbles per game on average?
The stress that you put on average made me think it was Poku because he had a lot of time out.
It's done exactly the same to me.
I put Campbell.
It's Poku.
Yeah.
I'm a psychologist.
Next one is the Neil Harris returned to Cambridge this season, but which club did he previously leave?
All eyes on Callum.
I don't. I've put Millwall.
Oh.
I forget this stuff. I forget this stuff.
But Gillingham. No?
It's Millwall.
Oh my God!
He joined from, so he came from Gillingham
Oh,
to
yes.
Cambridge to
Oh, yeah.
Millwall back, and he's gone the other way.
Oh, I made myself look like a right fool here. Yeah.
So question
When
12.
you mocking me and making sure that I got this one right?
So question
yeah. I
12.
forgot. Yeah.
Seb didn't read the exam question properly.
No, I didn't. No.
Which League One player has the most tackles per 90?
I guess this and went Coventry. Let's see.
I've gone for Luca Hoole.
I went for Dobson.
No, it's Jack Curry.
Right.
We're terrible.
The next one was Bolton have conceded 1.5 goals per game on average so far this season. Their worst since what year?
I went 14-15 as a guess.
So did I.
I went 2021.
Seb's the closest, but it's 1920, the COVID year when they had all them financial problems. They conceded
Yeah,
66 goals in
yeah.
34 games.
I fucking
Yeah,
wrote
'cause
that one
they-
down. I
They
wrote
played
that
all
down.
the,
and crossed it out.
played all the youngsters to start the season, didn't they?
Question 14 is who are the league's lowest scorers?
Wigan.
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 Yep, correct. The next one is what team averages the least possession?
Northampton.
Yeah, I've gone for the same.
I went for Burton.
It's Shrewsbury.
No.
Wow.
I know it was Lincoln at one point, but
Yeah, you were fourth bottom.
They're down there, aren't they?
Fourth
Yeah.
bottom. The next one was which team has hit the woodwork the most this season?
I went for Stockport.
Yeah, off my remembering their game against Lincoln, I've also gone for Stockport.
Went for Wrexham.
It's Stockport.
Dammy.
I'm convinced they hit the post twice in that game. That was October. I just remember them constantly hitting the post.
The question 17 was who has the most successful dribbles in total?
I went with Campbell.
The psychology is back because I went for Campbell on this one.
I went for Rob Apter.
It is Campbell.
Oh my god! I'm actually doing so much better than I thought I would.
The next one was, who is Stevenage's top scorer?
I went with Reed.
This was difficult, but I went for Reed as well.
For Kemp.
Seb wins the point. It's Dan Kemp,
Oh.
only player in double figures for Stevenage.
Yeah, I don't. Reed's not done as well this year as he has.
He's got 7 this year, Jamie Reed.
Yeah.
19 is, who is the only fan-owned League One club?
Oh, with Exeter.
Exeter.
Yep, we've all got that one. Nice work.
Thank God.
This one's been mentioned a couple of times on this podcast, so I'd be surprised if you got this one wrong. Which club spent the most on agent fees in February 24th, February 25?
Let's all laugh at Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Huddersfield, yeah.
Yeah, Huddersfield Town. Question 21 is, who created the most big chances for Lincoln City this season?
I'm going to lose my job by guessing at Tendai Doriqua.
Ooh, right. So I've gone for Sean Rowan.
One of us is fucked.
I put the week as well as a bit left field.
Jamie keeps his job. It's Sean
Oh
Rowan.
dear.
Wow.
Sean Rowan's
From
top. Tom
centre
Bailey's
back?
is second. Yeah.
From centre back.
He's been left back
Left
most of
wing
the
back.
season, hasn't he?
Yeah, left back.
He's played
20
left of the 3, but oh dear.
but he-
22. So who
Diving
has the
run.
highest average age with 29.4?
I guessed at Wrexham.
I've gone for based off the strike force alone, Mansfield.
I went Wrexham as well.
It's Mansfield.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Lee Gregory and Atkins.
29.4.
Yeah.
Penultimate question is, which team has scored the most goals away from home?
Wycombe.
This was difficult. I'm for Birmingham.
Out for Birmingham as well.
It's Wycombe.
Man.
And the final question is, which team? This one was, I've run out of, I don't know what to put for this team in terms of question. I'm just going to find a stat where they're really poor at. And it was, which team averages the least corners per 90?
I guessed at Burton.
Well, I put Bristol Rovers.
I put Bristol Rovers as well.
And it's Northampton Town.
Oh, that.
They're one of them teams that are just like 18th, 19th for everything. So it was very difficult to actually find them a question. So if you hadn't realised...
That is the little hint. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, if you hadn't realised, there's one answer per team. So one question for Birmingham, one question for Barnsley, one question for Charlton, etc., etc., etc. That was the... So scores...
I sort of abandoned halfway through anyway.
So scores on the doors.
How many did you...
Well, I guess we will have to leave Callum to the end because going off how we were going through that, I think Callum's got the most here. So I've got 11.
How many did your non-League One boss get, Sam?
3.
Right, okay. I got 7.
I can keep my crown. I got 14.
Wow.
So the highest that everyone answered was 11. That was like the average. So we got a couple of 11s, a couple of 10s, a couple of 9s. Somebody got 7. Not just you, Seb, so don't worry. Nobody has got over 14.
Oh, and I'll take that. And I can tell you that I didn't cheat because I lost my internet halfway through, and the only thing that's currently connected to my internet is my laptop. So,
in terms of questions that people got right, one person got the successful dribbles correct, was Poku. So I think a couple of you got that as well. Neil Harris was, so not only you said put Gillingham, somebody else has put Gillingham as well. So don't worry about that one. Nobody got Jack Curry. One person got
There's
Bolton.
some real left field ones in there, wasn't there?
Yeah. A couple of people got Stockport. Stevenage top scorer. Most people got Dan Kemp. Everybody bar one person got the fan-owned League One club correct. All but one. Nobody actually got the Huddersfield Town agent fees one. So nobody's following us on Twitter.
Go, what's the Twitter, Sam?
At League One Lowdown. Birmingham were also mentioned in the away goals, but most people did put Wycombe. And nobody got the least corners one. Everyone went for Crawley or Bristol Rovers. Other than that, nobody got the least goals away from home. Everyone went for Shrewsbury or Cambridge, which is understandable. Not everybody got the negative goal difference. That was a splashing of teams. So yeah, I think that was Pretty much sums it
Fantastic.
up.
Well, a couple
We
of
have got
things in the
one
chat
final
before
comment.
we.
Yeah.
There you are. Exactly. A couple of things in the chat before we wrap up. Ryan, our producer, saying he did dreadfully on the quiz, so it's not just you, Seb. Don't worry. And we have a question from Ian Bradley. Thoughts on Matt Hanshaw's appointment for Rotherham? We talked about that a little bit earlier on, but Sam, I'll give you a word on that because I'm not sure you got in when we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, I personally think it's quite a safe appointment. I think there was names out there that Wrexham could have gone for. He's done incredibly well. He's obviously a Wrexham lad as well. 3 wins and a defeat in his 4 games.
Rotherham, come on. You're doing the quiz next time. You're answering the quiz next time.
I'm answering the quiz, am I? Okay. Yeah, so he did incredibly well in his temporary charge. Wrexham lad. Rotherham lad. Rotherham lad. Oh, I'm ready for bed. Rotherham lad. So that will help quickly get the fans on side, shall we say. But I think it's quite a safe appointment, personally. I think there's bigger names that they could have gone after.
Well, I think Callum's got 2 quizzes in a row now, so maybe he has to do the next one. He could be to make sure he could have a hat trick. Who knows? So I'm sure we'll do another live stream come the end of the season when we know where everyone's fallen, and we'll either gloat over getting our predictions right or sheepishly not mention them. So thank you for joining us, everyone who has joined and commented and got involved on the quiz as well. During this live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't, I'm sure you all have by this point, but do subscribe if you haven't already as we head on the road to 1,000, whatever podcast platform you listen to as well. We're on all of those, and I think this is going to go out as well as a little bit of a podcast special over the weekend, and lots to come next week. Callum, you can give us a bit more of what's to come next week.
So we're in the final stages of kind of organising it, but hopefully we will be with you for a review show on Tuesday. That'll be me and Sam, and then hopefully on Thursday we'll bring you a special preview episode. Hopefully we've still got to organise the day that we can do this, but with Gab Sutton. Hopefully we can get that to you. We just need to finalise when we're recording that, and then normal business will be resumed with Jamie and Seb with your review episode on the Sunday.
Amazing. So lots to keep an eye out for on YouTube and podcast platforms. Thanks again for joining us. This has been the League One Lowdown.